USMNT fans, what did we do to deserve another strong weekend today? Our strikers are all producing. Pulisic continues to produce. A lot of right backs are producing. It's good to see, guys. It's good to see. After the terrible summer that we had, the season seems to be starting off exactly on the right foot, exactly how you hope it would, right? Bar 1 or 2 weeks where you're like, oh, that's not great. But if there's nothing else, we can say our guys are producing for club. Pochettino's challenge is going to be, how can we get them to produce for country? That's the big issue, right? And that's TBD. Tony Martinez says, Pete fixing the PowerPoint. Will we ever have to use PowerPoints ever again? Actually, it's a great point. I didn't even put the PowerPoint in waiting, so I could just bring it up to the screen. So you ain't wrong, Tony. You ain't wrong. Let me pull it up here. What have you guys been up to? How's your week been? Anything good happened to you all? It's been a rough week for me, man. Rough week. How about for you guys? What's been happening with you? Any positive news to share? Anybody get married or have a kid or get a new job or reach a life goal? Anything dope that we can congratulate you on? Anybody, by the way, anybody on the East Coast affected by Hurricane Helene? Everybody okay? Tough times. Publix rules, says LB. All right. Oh, Winelkai says, what's up, Pete? Just watching your videos while eating some Publix subs. I have never had a Publix sub. We don't have Publix here in California. Although I did, when I went to South Carolina, I went to a Publix grocery store, but I don't think I had one of their subs. I'm good. What's the rage? Tony Martinez says, waiting for the USMNT roster drop. Yes, Pochettino's first ever USMNT roster should drop this week, probably Thursday or Friday. Kaden says, just had 12 grandkids. My dog. Oh, shit. Did your dog just have 12 puppies? That's a lot of puppies. Javier says, that's a big litter. Do they even have that many in a litter? Javier says, where'd Javier go? It's just there. At least California has In-N-Out. I'm going to say something sacrilegious to most Californians. I don't think In-N-Out is all that. Like, it's good by the standard of, like, that's a good fast food joint with good food, but it doesn't stand out the same way that, you know, like in the same way that Texans get very excited about Whataburger and Californians get excited about In-N-Out. I don't really get it because I've had both and they're good. Like, they're both good, right? But I don't think either of them is worthy of, like, oh my God, this is the best thing since sliced bread. Like, it's good. They're both good. I enjoyed both meals, but I didn't really get all of the excitement, if that makes sense. Let's see. Lewis Bronson says, you just don't get it. Carl's Jr. is way better, though. I don't know. I mean, Carl's Jr. is good, too, but I think it depends on certain things. Like, Carl's Jr.'s shakes are better, for sure. But, like, fries-wise, I still think McDonald's makes the best fries. Like, McDonald's makes the best fries, but nothing else is good. Although their strawberry banana smoothie is delicious. Other than that, McDonald's is overrated. But then, like, the shakes from O'Culver's is also really good. That's more in, like, the Midwest. Utrecht with a big win today. Paxton, yeah, great goal from Paxton. The question is, did he make the top 10? Wendy's has the best fries. I can't agree with you there, Andrew. It's got to be McDonald's for me. Steak and Shake is pretty good. Yeah, that's true. ATL guy, are you okay over there with Hurricane Helene? You all right? I know a couple of people who, not doing so well in North Carolina and Georgia, places like that. Carl Tanner says, we have the Culvers in Florida. Okay, I don't remember this place, Carl. But when I drove from Atlanta to Orlando, I stopped on the side of the highway at this little, like, fast food burger and ice cream joint. And I don't remember the name of it, but it was so good. It was like a chain. I don't remember what it was called. So are there any common chains in Florida that are not in the rest of the country that would help me remember what it was? All right. Strangers, why don't we bring in, say, 30 players to a friendly camp? Poch can see more players, dual nats could meet everyone, etc. Even if they don't play, they could train with the team. Yeah. And to be honest, we may not be able to have 30 players, considering the amount of injuries that we have right now, right? I mean, we've got, look who's currently injured. Tyler Adams is injured. Serginho Dest is injured. Chris Richards is injured. Cameron Carter-Vickers is injured. Kevin Paredes is injured. Griffin Yao is injured. Gio Reyna is injured, although it looks like he will be back this midweek, so we'll see about that one. Other than that, I think there are 7 guys that are currently injured that would be maybe regulars or like on the edge of like pushing for a spot. LB says Aaron Long is available and ready to cook. Oh, dude. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think 23 to 26 players is enough right now, considering all the injuries that we have. I think center back's going to be very interesting because if Richards and CCV are injured, then who are your options? I mean, McKenzie is an obvious one then. Maybe Austin Trusty, now that he's starting for Celtic. Let's see how he looks in midweek against Dortmund. And then, maybe Tim Reen, those 3. But then who's the 4th one? Do you go with like a Brooks, right? Playing in the 2nd division. For me, that's kind of meh. Do you go with a young, center back like Jalen Neal? Do you go with one of the MLS lifers like Miles Robinson or Walker Zimmerman? Or do you go with, Tag's idea of Tessman as a center back? And a couple of you were mentioning Maloney as well, right? So both Maloney and Tessman, that's probably what I would go with. Like, this is a time to experiment with players who are still quality, but maybe you have so much depth in their other positions that you try them out at center back, right? And I think both Tessman and Maloney fit that bill. So if it was me, I'd probably bring Tessman, Maloney, McKenzie, and Trusty, and then maybe Jalen Neal as like a young option. Although Jalen Neal, and we got us, hold our players accountable more. He's great with the ball at his feet, but he got benched by the Galaxy the last couple of games because he wasn't very good defensively. So there's high potential with Jalen Neal, but it's like, dude, you're 21 now. Like, this is MLS. You're not playing in a top 5 league. If you want to be in consideration for the national team, you're going to have to start showing more consistency, right? So we'll maybe talk a little bit about the roster at the end, but let's hop into quick word from our sponsor. Where does the game start? I still use BetOnline, and I use the code BLEAV where the game starts. It's right backs and strikers this week. Andrew McClure says, Pete, is Pulisic world class? I'll get into this discussion after we finish that, but it's a good question, and it has sparked a lot of debate on Twitter this week. So Nathan Harriel makes the top 10, I think for the first time ever, against Atlanta United. He played 90 minutes, had 1 goal, scored a really nice goal, by the way. 1 block, 6 clearances, 3 interceptions, 4 out of 4 tackles won, 4 out of 7 ground duels won, and 0 out of 2 aerial duels won. Now, this was the goal, and this was hit first time. It was cut back to him, and he hit this one first time. It was a really nice goal. This is actually, the screenshot is from when the ball's already in the back of the net, but it was more at the edge of the D where he took that shot, the little half circle outside the penalty box. So that was a really nice strike from Nathan Harriel, who, was okay. I don't think he was amazing during the Olympics. I think he had some good moments. I think he had some not great moments, but, he is probably fighting, Marlon Fossey and Brian Reynolds just to be a 3rd choice right back on the roster, because it's very clearly Dest and Scally for that spot right now. And so at best, he could maybe fight for a 3rd place spot, but certainly scoring more goals like that, that would be ideal, right? To give himself an opportunity. The ATL guy says, but it was against the anemic grandpa Guzan. Yeah, that is true. It was against 40-year-old Guzan, who hasn't been good in 5 years. But at least, you can only beat the teams in front of you. Hey, Pete, I'm biased as a longtime Inter Miami fan. Are there longtime Inter Miami fans? You guys have existed for like 2 years. I'm kidding with you. But with our lack of goalkeeping depth, could you see a move for Drake Callender to Europe? And where would he fit in the Eredivisie? So I don't watch a ton of Inter Miami, but when I have, he's looked distinctly mediocre. And like all of our other goalkeepers, has the same problem, right? Can't really play that well with his feet under pressure, right? And so I think a move to Europe is always a good thing, provided he's going there to start, right? Like, I think you're right. Eredivisie would probably be a good start. Maybe the championship. Although even the championship, even Horvath is not a starter in the championship anymore. Gaga Slonina couldn't get into the championship. Championship's a good league. So yeah, maybe I think Eredivisie or Belgium might be a good start, and then try to continue to develop as a goalkeeper there, and then go from there. But I don't think he should be in USMNT consideration right now or anytime soon, to be honest. Number 9, still on right backs. Marlon Fossey of Standard Liège played against Westerlo. So it was the 2 third choice right backs or third choice wannabe right backs battling it out. And Marlon Fossey came out on top, far ahead of Brian Reynolds, who was not very good, I'll be honest. Played 86 minutes, created 4 chances, which was a match high. Like when your right back is creating the most chances in the game, that tells you something. 2 out of 4 accurate crosses, 2 out of 2 tackles won, 3 out of 3 ground duels won, 4 out of 7 aerial duels won, and 1 foul drawn from Marlon Fossey. So making his case with Serginho Dest still out, right? There's 2 camps before Serginho Dest gets back. Now, with those 2 camps, he's probably going to bring more than 1 right back. So Marlon Fossey is certainly making his case, and he started making his case really against New Zealand. I mean, to be honest, he started making his case, when he moved to Belgium with Standard Liège. But he's been playing well enough, and then played well enough against, Belgium, that I think he deserves a look over Brian Reynolds right now, who hasn't really, he's sort of stagnated a little bit in Belgium. Number 8, too soon to call it a comeback? Probably, but Kaden Clark of Club de Foot de Montréal played 78 minutes against San Jose Earthquakes. Now, yes, albeit the San Jose Earthquakes are the worst team in MLS, so let's keep that in mind. But he did get a goal and an assist. And more realistically, I think what's more interesting about Kaden Clark right now is in the last 3 games, he has 3 goals and 1 assist. So it's starting to look like a mini revival for Kaden Clark, who first burst into the scene in 2021 with the Red Bulls. And then he goes, to Leipzig, and even at Red Bulls, the second season, it didn't really work out for him. And then he went to Leipzig and things didn't really work out. And then he went on loan to the Netherlands and that didn't work out. And then back home to Minnesota, which is his hometown. And we all had hopes that maybe that would be, still didn't work out. But he's now in Montreal and he's finding, it's a hot streak, right? Does that mean this guy's now good? No, not necessarily. But he's finding a hot streak and hopefully that can give him some confidence. And, with young players, the gaps between, producing and not can be pretty big, and sometimes it's just about finding a comfort level and form. And maybe we'll see more of that from Clark. So we'll see. It's too early to get excited, in my opinion, because also it is MLS, right? It's not like he's doing this at a top league or anything, but it's the more options we have, the better. So if Kaden Clark can make a comeback and maybe turn a year and a half of good soccer in Montreal into a move after in 2026, still only be 2023, then yeah, maybe there's something there in the future. But, these were the 2. This was the goal. I mean, the goal was, unmarked in the 6-yard box. It was a good little pass from Bryce Duke, but still he finished it. And personally, the assist I thought was more impressive. He ran down the right and cut it back for Joseph Martinez, who had acres of space to score because the center back just stood there and watched him do it mostly. But it was a nice assist from Kaden Clark. And hopefully we'll see how long you can keep this hot streak going, right? Remember, January camp is not that far off. And if you're an MLS player, obviously you have an edge in January camp because there aren't many. Most of our good players are in Europe. So it really should just be young players. But I could see a January camp where if Kaden Clark still keeps producing, then why not call him up, give him a look, right? Next up, Paxton Aronson of FC Utrecht. He actually was not originally on the top 10, but late game came off the bench at halftime against AZ Alkmaar and scored a beauty of a goal. Didn't do much else apart from that, but this was the goal. He one-touched it from the edge of the box, and not just one-touched it, but curled it. Unsavable shot. Really, really nice goal by Paxton Aronson. Colin is back. Notice how Pete talks about Kaden Clark when he scores, when he ignores Mihailovic and Luna every week. He also ignored Bobby Wood's Golazzo from outside the box, plus his consistent scoring. Oh no. So what's my bias this time, Colin? Is my bias that I'm biased towards players named Kaden, players who play in Montreal, players with brown hair? What's the issue? Because I thought I hated MLS players, but now when I'm hyping up an MLS player, you're mad that I'm not hyping up Mihailovic, who is not a USMNT player and will not be anytime soon. I did mention Luna last week. He didn't quite make the top 10 because there was a lot of other options, but I did mention him. So wax, ears, Q-tips, clean result for you. Bobby Wood hasn't been a USMNT player for almost 10 years now, Colin. So just like Brandon Bai and Sebastian Leggett, guys who were, USMNT players back when you could still get an erection, they aren't here in the top 10. They're just not under consideration. Same for Jordan Pefok. Last week. People were saying, why is he not in there? He got, an assist. He's not really a USMNT player right now. All right. So keep trying, though. You're doing good. All right. Damion Downs of FC Koln. Speaking of guys we should have brought to the Olympics instead of, Duncan McGuire or Georgi Mihailovic. Sorry, Colin. Damion Downs is actually having a really good season so far. He broke through toward the end of last season with FC Koln when they were still in the Bundesliga. They got relegated, and actually it's been a good thing for him in some ways because, he's getting a lot of starts and he is producing. In 7 games, he's got 4 goals and 1 assist. So 5 goal contributions in 7 games in the 2 Bundesliga. If he keeps that up, the kid is still 21 years old, right? So if he keeps that up, maybe either they get promoted or maybe he gets a move next summer and now we see what he can do in the Bundesliga. But, the more strikers we have, the better. It's going to be a tough group to break into, particularly these 3 that have now been performing a fair bit. But credit to Damion Downs. And they weren't like, gimme goals either. This goal, I'm just showing, the finish here. But this was a long ball over the top. He made a run with a defender with him, held him off, kept in behind, and then finished nicely. Might have gotten a little bit of luck here because it did kind of go between the keeper's legs. But overall, it was good work. And this goal, again, 1 touch. Very similar to Paxton Aronson's goal. 1 touch. Curled this into the top corner for his brace. So well done to Damion Downs. I think we should have brought Damion Downs to the Olympics. But, whoever was in charge did not agree with me. But good for him. So, long may this form continue. There's no reason why he couldn't get 20 goal contributions in the 2 Bundesliga, right? And yes, it's the 2 Bundesliga, but it's a good start. And performing there should get him a look from bigger clubs, bigger teams. Let's see how he does. But well done to Damion Downs. Joseph Scally of Borussia, not Dortmund, as Tack likes to call it, Gladbach, played 90 minutes and helped them to get a clean sheet against Union Berlin. Also created 2 chances, had 7 passes into the final third, 2 out of 6 accurate crosses, 2 out of 3 tackles won, 4 clearances, 3 added clearances, won 5 out of his 8 ground duels, and 3 out of 4 aerial duels. There is although he hasn't been perfect, and he has had some dips in form over the last few years, there is a base level of consistency with Joe Scally that has been really, really important. And I think if any, young players from MLS or even guys who haven't quite signed with MLS can learn from Joe Scally is that, find a level that is suited to you. Find a level where you can be pushed and grow, but also be given opportunities, right? And I think that's really important for a lot of our guys going abroad is maybe sometimes they reach a little too high that they're or for a level that they're not ready for, right? For example, Pepi, right? That move to Augsburg didn't quite work out. PSV, you could argue, is still TBD, but we'll talk more about Pepi later. I think mid-table Bundesliga as a development league is a really good place for a lot of our guys. That is if they're ready. A guy like Paxton, for example, he wasn't ready, right? Paxton is, doing okay in the Eredivisie, and that's more his level for right now. But for even a guy like, Gio Reyna, if you're not getting playing time at Dortmund, I really wish he would get a loan to like a Gladbach or a Stuttgart or a Hoffenheim even. Like a mid-table German club where you will play regularly and you're still playing against a lot of the same competition, but you'll grow as a player. But well done to Scally. Speaking of passes into the final third, this was my favorite one from him. That's him in the center circle, and he lobbed this beautiful pass in behind that didn't end up being a goal. But it was a great, great pass from Scally. I think his long-range passing is a bit of an underrated part of his game because he's not Serginho Dest. He's not technical and tricky that can take players on 1v1. His crossing can be a little bit hit or miss. Mostly he's a very, not very. He's a generally reliable defender who does the simple things well, right? But at the same time, he does have the ability to hit, a pass, right? He does have the ability to hit a pass from time to time, and that was an example of it. Joshua Sargent, the Ginger Ninja for Norwich City, did not get on target, right? But he did get 2 assists for Norwich against Derby County. One of them, quite questionable. Played 90 minutes. That should say 2 assists, not 1. Missed 1 big chance. Not what you want to see. This was 2 assists. There's the mistake. There's the weekly mistake that you have to highlight. And also ignore the rest of those stats. The ground duels 1 is incorrect. In fact, let me read out the proper stats to you now. Sometimes when I change the template, it doesn't always render on PowerPoint. Let me look it up here. By the way, Kaden Sullivan scored today for Philly 2. Philly 2. So good on him. Let me just look up Sargent's actual stats so I don't do him dirty here and provide misinformation. Excuse me. 90 minutes played, 0 goals, 2 assists, 80% passing accuracy, 2 big chances missed, apparently. I did not see those, so I can't comment on those. 1 pass into the final third, won 5 out of 10 ground duels, 1 out of 2 aerial duels, and was fouled 3 times. Norwich fans seem to be very happy with him. I can't speak to the misses because I didn't actually see those, right? Bobby Hill, what's up? But, 2 goal contributions is 2 goal contributions. And this was a nice one. In transition, this was an outside of the boot pass with his right foot that was perfectly in line for Sainz to go finish it. Now, the second one is the controversial one, right? I think you can clearly see that the ball is fully off, has fully crossed the line. He hustled to get there and put it back in, and the referee and the linesman both counted it as a goal. So it will go down as an official assist. I don't know why VAR didn't take a look at that. That's clearly several inches at least past the line. But, sometimes our guys score goals or do things that shouldn't have get called off, and they get a little unlucky. But so, we'll take the luck when we can get it. ATL guy says, what you mean? That's totally in play. Jeff Carey says, I see nothing. There was no VAR for whatever reason. What you mean? That's no VAR. Sargent has missed 9 big chances this year so far. La verdad, I can't speak to that. Is that if that's true, which I'm sure you're not making it up. If that's true, that's an interesting stat, and we should probably talk about that. But overall, I think it's fair to say that Sargent has been very effective as a striker for Norwich. Ever since they let him play as a striker, ever since they let what's-his-name go to Minnesota, he has been very effective as a striker, misses notwithstanding. Hadji has been benched, Yahir, yes. Rascality clarifying, Pete, Kaven is pronounced Cavan, not cave in. I think Gavin with a C. Is that right? All right. Okay, then. Let me see here. Cavan, you're right. Cavan. That's correct. Cavan Sullivan. All right. Cavan Sullivan. It was a legitimate goal, hands down. We know, Kai. So good. Anyways, good on Josh Sargent. Number 3, the man himself, Christian Pulisic, scores yet again for Milan. That is 7 goal contributions now in 7 games. Yes, it was a blowout against Lecce. Yes, outside of that, certainly his stats were not extremely impressive. Goals. 7 goal contributions in 7 games. right? That's huge. 63 minutes, 1 goal. Pulisic, was this an amazing goal? I don't know. I don't know if it was, right? It was a good goal, right? Whether or not you do a golazzo or a tight finish, it's still a goal, right? Tom says she's right. Why'd you say what's up? Oh, Mal. Folarin Balogun for AS Monaco, pardon me, played 90 minutes, 1 goal, 4 chances created, 1 big chance missed. 1 out of 2 successful dribbles, 1 out of 7 ground duels won, 1 out of 1 aerial duels won, 1 foul drawn, 2 fouls committed. Here's the thing about Folarin Balogun right now that is difficult for me because he's very one-dimensional, right? Very one-dimensional player. That's not a bad thing. He's really, really good at what he does. Every time that he is on the, like, right on the edge of that back line, on the shoulder, he charges in behind and finishes a goal, right? Or not finishes, but he's asking for the ball in behind, right? He's asking for the ball in behind. He's making the run. And when he has even half a chance, he shoots. That's not a bad thing, by the way, right? That's not a bad thing. That's a great thing. Are there times where you would like him to try something a little different, where maybe trying to force the shot when there were 2 or 3 blocks is not exactly the way to go? Would you want him to try a little more combination play or slip in a player or put a cross in instead of have a shot from a tight angle? Yes, but at the same time, you don't, how do you put this? You don't want a player to like drift too far from what makes them good. And that is what makes him really, really good, right? That's what makes him amazing as a player. And that's what has made him successful in the past. So you want a player to add things to their game, but also you don't want to like, how should I put this? It's a tough balance for a coach. You want to push them to add things to their game, but you don't want them to think that what they're doing is not good enough, or for them to become too weird, like too far away from what's made them good. Does that make sense to you guys? I don't know if I'm like articulating this well. I think there's a way to articulate it that is better. I don't know. But you guys understand what I'm saying? He also had a shot that he really should have finished. Like, it was 1-on-1 with the keeper, and he completely skied it. And that was about 10 minutes after he put a cross in, right, for, I think it was Embolo, who also skied. And it was a really nice cross for Embolo right in front of goal, and you'd think that's got to be an assist for Balogun, but Embolo skies it. And then he skies one, but then he comes around later and scores a very good goal. Speaking of which, you know, a good little run in behind, held his composure, finished nicely beyond the keeper, 1v1. Sure, you expect him to finish that. That is like, dude, you have to finish that. But on the other hand, you know, that's something that in the past we've seen him miss those. And so the goal last week, which was, I don't want to say it was a simple goal. This was a simple goal, but finishing those should give him the confidence to then take on players more, or to try things that we know he's good at, but he's maybe struggled with when his confidence was low, if that makes sense to you guys. So I'm hoping that he can continue to like get his confidence back, which I think will translate to more goals, more assists, better performances, more things coming off. Because more than any of our other strikers, Balogun has the ability to do audacious things, right? And that audacity is something that you want to encourage. Here's the problem with audacity. You need to be confident to do it. If you don't have that audacity, things aren't going to come off, right? And so sometimes, like I remember when I was coaching, one of my strikers was going through a bit of a goal drought. He was missing things he should score. His combination play wasn't coming off. His decision-making was poor. And I knew it was all up here, right? I knew it was all up in his head. And so I said, listen, we've seen you do all this stuff before. You didn't become a bad player overnight. You're struggling with your confidence, and that's normal for strikers. What you need to do is, when your confidence is failing, what are the things that you can control? Focus on the things that you can do well. Your work rate, your off-ball movement. That's the sort of thing that, like, you can press all day, regardless of how skilled you are. You don't even need to be that skillful to press. You don't, to check into space, you don't need to be that skillful. To drag an opponent out of position to create space for a teammate, you don't need to be that skillful or confident. So if you focus on controlling the controllables, then the simple things will start to come off again. And when the simple things start to come off, that then builds up your confidence, and now you can be more successful, right? So hopefully as Balogun continues to score goals, we'll start seeing more of the audacious things that we know he's capable of, like what we saw in Copa America, because he will be more confident. And when you are confident mentally, physically, things just come off more easily, right? Ricardo Pepi is number one this week because he got his first ever start this season for PSV Eindhoven. And I, it was against Willem. And I remember thinking, like, if he doesn't produce today, he's never beating the allegations, right? He absolutely has to score goals. 90 minutes, 2 goals, 1 chance created, 0 out of 2 successful dribbles, 2 out of 7 ground duels won, 1 out of 3 aerial duels won. So the stats were not amazing apart from the goals, but the goals are what count. And let me show you the goals, then we'll talk about what Peter Bosz said after that. The first one was a simple finish through traffic. It was crowded, did well to finish it. The second one was a really nice leap above everybody else, as you can see here, and header into the far post. Now, good for him, right? That's all you can do. Sure, it was against Willem. Are they one of the worst teams in the Eredivisie? Yes. Are the worst teams in the Eredivisie good teams? No. They're probably MLS level teams at best. Some of them might even be, I don't want to say worse, but you know what I mean. Like, I think certainly a LA Galaxy could hold their own in the Eredivisie against some of these teams. So, sure, it's against Willem, but, when he gets opportunities, he has to do well with them. He has to finish chances. He has to score goals. And Peter Bosz said after the game, he said, last season, there were times where I wanted to bench Luuk de Jong. Okay. And Luuk de Jong told me, well, remember the season before where I didn't play and we dropped these points and dropped these points. So basically, and then Peter Bosz said, but this season I'm not letting de Jong do that. So essentially, Peter Bosz admitted that Luuk de Jong sort of gaslit him into playing when he actually wanted to play Pepi more. And it's like, dude. And this time he's like, no, Pepi deserves it. He's been training well. He's been performing well, given this opportunity, especially if they want to do anything in Champions League. I think resting de Jong was the right idea for this game, right? De Jong is getting older. And, he can't hog all the minutes. But again, if Pepi hadn't performed, it would be really hard for him to get more minutes after this. Thankfully for all of us, he did. And it's just so damn good to see BMR says gaslit. De Jong had a great season. When I say gaslit, I mean the coach wanted to play somebody else, and he persuaded the coach to play him instead, because he said the season before we dropped too many points. So we can't afford to play Pepi or we might drop points, essentially, right? Which you understand it from his point of view. Of course, he's always going to want to play, but the coach, Peter Bosz, has to be like, sure, I understand that. I trust Pepi. I'm pretty sure Pepi can get the goals against Willem or Fortuna Sittard or any of these types of teams, right? To have Sargent, Balogun, and Pepi all performing well this week, to have even a guy like Damion Downs, although it was the second division, performing well. Our right backs doing well. Pulisic continuing to score. Paxton, Aronson with a great golazzo. It's been encouraging. It's not often that we get 2 really good weeks in a row, and it feels like the last 2 we have. Now, there's one more coming. We have Champions League in midweek, and then we have, on the weekend, the last Europe games before the, international break, right? So 2 more games before the international break comes. Roster should drop this week, right? Let's see who's on that Pochettino roster. Obviously, Tack and I will cover it as per the usual. Jeff Carey says, when are you and Tack going to do your next live stream? I have several interesting stories. I would say, Jeff, that you should take them to Tack's live stream. Rocco, thank you for the super chat, Rocco. So somebody asked me earlier about Christian Pulisic and whether or not he was World class. Here's the problem with world class, guys. It is a subjective term. When you ask different people, what does world class mean? How do you define world class? Everybody gives you a different answer. Some people say top 10 in the world in their position. Some people say top 5. Some people say top 25. Some people say can start for any team in the world. So there's so many different definitions of top class. So when people argue about whether or not a player is top class, to me, it doesn't really make sense because, well, what do you mean by world class? Everybody has a different definition. So how can you use that as a measuring stick or as a marker, right? So if you say, is Pulisic a top 10 winger in the world? I would say probably not. Is he top 20 winger in the world? Yeah, maybe. I'd probably put him somewhere in the 15 to 20 range. But doesn't matter right now. At this point, we just need him to stay healthy, to keep producing, to keep scoring, to still be a menace for Milan. And that's all. And then, of course, obviously for the USMNT, that's what really matters, at least from our point of view. Milanistas won't care, but Milanistas are very happy with him, right? Chris Pena, yes, I think, of course, we can beat Mexico in October. We have better players. But of course, we haven't beat them away in a long time, right? I think it was under Jurgen Klinsmann in a friendly. It was the last time we beat them away. So, yeah, it's been a while. But then again, we rarely play Mexico away. We almost always play them at home. So, yeah, it's going to be a different environment. I'm glad we're playing away from home because we need to do more of that, to be honest. And I think Mexico under Aguirre will be a more defensively solid team. I don't think they're going to be an expansive team that's coming at us and allowing us to hit them in transition easily. I think they're going to be more compact. I think they're going to be more difficult to break down. I think they're going to play even dirtier than they have in the past, right? And I think it's going to be a good test for us. Can we break down this Mexico team away from home in a supposedly hostile environment? Because the media under Berhalter and even some fans and a lot of the, even some ex-players were saying, guys, winning away in CONCACAF is so hard. And I think we have to stop using that as an excuse. If we want to compete at a World Cup, even though the World Cup is at home, okay, it's not like we're playing Japan away. It's not like we're playing France or Brazil or Argentina away. We're playing Mexico. And this Mexico team was never a world-class team, but also they're not even close to the team they used to be. This is the worst Mexico team in terms of talent that I've seen in 30 years, guys. So, of course, we can beat them, but I think it'll be a good test for us, right? Kenyon Twig, quit the world-class debate for Pulisic. Just let him play and score goals. I mean, debates about stuff is for fans. That's what being a fan is all about, right? You can have a debate. Is a player world-class? Is he not? These are the questions that fans enjoy debating. So I don't have a problem with people debating it. Sure, debate it all. That's the fun of being a fan. Pete, congrats on 20K. Thank you. I still remember being around when we first beat Mexico 3-2 in 2021. I was a sophomore in high school back then, and now I'm a sophomore in college. Dope, man. What are you studying in college? And thanks for following since 2021. Excuse me. Pete, whatever happened to Matthew Hoppe? Never reached his potential. Not even close, man. And I don't know why. He's definitely had more potential than the level he's playing at now, which is Middlesbrough's academy. Wasn't even good in MLS. Maybe USL is his level. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure what happened to Matthew Hoppe. It's sad, but that happens. It happens all over the world with promising, bright players. For lots of different reasons, things don't always work out, or they don't always reach their potential. Reaching your potential is a tough thing to do. Requires a combination of skill, effort, the right environment, the right coaching, the right people around you, a little bit of luck. There's a lot of things that go into it. All right, guys, have a great one. I will talk to y'all probably this week when the roster drops. Later.